Whatuprg's New Hollywood was initially talked about in 2018.
However, when you look at the production of what he's done and the things that he's been a part of just in these past couple months, the one sound you hear is big.
This could be a collaborative project, or it could have similarities to Pleasant Hill, where there aren't many features, but there's still a story being told.
13 tracks called New, Kids, Saint Holy, Don't Lie, Melatonin, Human.
When you think about praise, when you think about witness, right? All of that kind of praise element is in that. He really wants to make worship music.
Him saying, "I'm sorry, no album tonight. As much as I want to drop, the vision for New Hollywood keeps evolving as I navigate life. I hate to disappoint, but I hope you can understand this is more than music for me."
Okay, this is like my 10th time recording the intro. We're gonna get this right. All right, let's go. Yo, what is up, guys? Today we are back with a new video. I mean, as you can see, we outside. As I wanted to take my time to basically review Whatuprg's Hollywood album. And man, I mean, this album has been in the making for such a long time. I mean, when it was first announced around 2019, we waited for this album from throughout 2019, throughout this whole entire pandemic. And I mean, now, 3.5 years later, we finally got the album, we just got it last Friday. And so yeah, I just wanted to give my thoughts about it and just give a review about it, especially because I know a lot of people were trying to get the reaction videos out there and try and get a video put out there as fast as possible. But I really had to take my time listening throughout this album just because of how good this album was. And honestly, it literally took me not even from that standpoint, but literally alone, it took me, I think, probably until my 5th or 6th listen through to finally even pick up which song I was actually gonna throw into my playlist rotation, just because there were so many songs that I literally couldn't decide what I was gonna throw into my playlist. And yeah, I just wanted to give a well thought out review about it, what I thought about it, and what I liked, what I didn't like, even though there's really not much to even criticize about it. But yeah, let's get right into it. Now, man, this project's coming out, I mean, it's been the span of, if you want to count since his last full project, Rose Gold, which was 4 years ago. I mean, it's been literally 4 years since RG dropped anything. I mean, if you want to count Raul, I kind of count it as a smaller project / EP, but man, literally, it's been a long time since RG dropped a full body of work. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it's almost been a week in since listening to this project, and I'm still having a hard time trying to figure out which songs to pick off and throw into my playlist, just because I literally love every single song. And to start off for the intro, the first song called New, generally I love when an artist tries to bring you into their world and their experiences. The intro is everything to me. Him talking about just being on a lonely island from his own experiences, it's a great way to draw people in, especially post-pandemic now, with a lot of people feeling just out of place and distant from people. It's a great way to hook in, the listeners, and to start this album out strong, just talking about being lonely and kind of just bringing you into his experiences and everything he's about to talk about. So the intro was phenomenal. And then Kids, following the intro, it's a great way to start the album. I mean, I know it's already out and there's already plenty of reviews and video reactions on the song, so I'm not really going to comment too much on it, but it's definitely a great way to set the mood to start the album off and just let RG tell the story. But then when you actually jump into the first, full song of the album, I would consider it MySpace. I love, in particular, what I love is when he looped that segment where he's just going in and he's talking about, I've been at the top. Honestly, I wish when I made this video, I wish I actually made this as a reaction, because when I first heard that, I was just I was stunned, man. I was just shocked when he looped that, because it kind of like it broke up the song when you're just like listening to what he's saying and everything like that, and it kind of like it threw in an element of like surprise, man. So that's definitely what I liked about the song. So MySpace was definitely a great song.
You clear the storm in my mind. You bring me back to life. You bring me back to life.
So for the next song, Human, what I like about it, there's a few things I like about it. For one, it's kind of like he's starting to get into what the album is really talking about, and just the name itself, Human, I mean, he's just talking about who he is, I guess, behind closed doors, when he's not on the mic, there's not a camera in his face, and he's really going through human things, and it's not him seemingly trying to have everything all together. So he's just, more so just talking about that and just the stresses he goes through and everything like that. But what I like in particular is like the rock and roll element of the song. So if you're someone who grew up listening to different genre blends, this is a great song in particular that you'll like for sure, just because if you're going in thinking it's going to be like a strict hip-hop album, it's definitely not. RG is definitely, what I liked a lot about this album is that he threw a lot of elements of surprise into this album, and this album for sure you'll enjoy for sure. Alright, so the next song is pretty much, or actually two songs, but Floating and Melatonin. I'm going to put both of them together just because Floating is more so a transition into Melatonin, and I really like that just because when it comes to a body of work, like when you're going through, especially an album for the first time, you want to listen to it in order, just because whoever you're listening to, they're not going to just like throw a bunch of songs in random order. There's a story to it, and RG literally took full advantage of that. So just him, taking Floating and then transitioning that into Melatonin. And Melatonin, I mean, like, who better than to talk about that stuff with than 350 himself, man. This was like the perfect fit for the song, like the perfect feature, might I add. But it was a great song for sure. I mean, just hearing RG talk about his use of melatonin to ease out just his problems and anxieties. I love the concept in itself just because, we as humans, we're not perfect. And we especially like to cope naturally when it comes to any type of problem or just like the stress we have. And what I like about, RG talking about, taking melatonin to get away from his problems, it's basically a reflection of how we are as humans, how we try to cope to get away from our problems, and how the challenge is now is how do we lean on Christ through that, and how do we instead of leaning towards other things, towards other, substances or whatever it is, how do you go from using, prescriptive drugs like melatonin to deal with your problems to letting Christ handle that? And I mean, that's not to say, obviously, like, people don't obviously need it to like sleep. People obviously have sleeping problems. But what I'm basically trying to say is that you get a sense that for RG, taking melatonin is more than just using it to solve his like sleeping problems. It's to get away from just his problems in the middle of the day, his problems within his personal life and everything like that. So melatonin I really enjoy for sure. Now the next song following that is called Need You, and he just goes into more of his experiences and struggles. But what I love in particular is when he kind of plays around with like the mono or stereo, I guess. Like I think that's what it's called. But like when I put my headphones on when I was listening to this album, like I thought something was wrong with my headphones. I feel like that's how bad this song messed me up, because I'm listening to it and then just out of nowhere, you know, I think he's just talking about like medicated, hella jaded, and like literally the way he produced it, whoever produced it, just like hearing it from one ear and then hearing the next like syllable or just word coming out the other ear. It was really creative. I loved it, to be honest. I wish he had done that to that segment on MySpace, but as well. But I mean, like, yeah, no, that took me out for sure. So Need You, great song regardless. The next song after that, Running, I love kind of like I guess it's like the halfway point of the album where like everything just slows down and he's just talking about running from his problems, I guess. But I just love the production overall of it and just how calm it is and kind of how like you're spaced out when you're listening to it. But Running, you know, I loved just the production of it more so. Now the next song, Sober, I mean, I love this song, guys. Like, this is literally like the top 2 or top 1 songs on the album, debatably. I would say it's probably, right now it's like number 2, but it's a really great song. And there's 2 or 3 things that make it stand out as a great song. And number 1, like sonically, you could tell, like the first listen through, I could tell right off the bat, he was taking a lot of influence on the mainstream side from artists, particularly like from like Travis Scott and Don Toliver, which are really good at kind of like, you know, making ambient sounds, ambient music, and you know, they're really good at, I guess, putting you in a moment or atmosphere. And RG really captured that moment on the song Sober, because you know, the sound of it kind of like makes you feel like you're alone at night dealing with your own problems. So that's what I loved about it. So it was well produced on that end. And then the second thing I love about it was the concept and idea itself of trying to remain sober. I mean, normally, I guess like it's not really traditionally heard on a Christian album for Christian artists to even admit that. But I love RG's transparency with just showing us that, you know, even as a believer, you can still deal with these problems. And what I love especially about it is that you can not only plug in, you know, the idea of try to be sober, but you could also plug in really any other issue, and this song could really relate to anyone. Anyone struggling with, you know, childhood traumas, anyone struggling with pornography, anyone struggling with drug use, you know, substance abuse, whatever it is. I just love the idea that RG is really showing the listener that you can still struggle with these things as a Christian, and how does it look like through the lens as a believer to struggle with it, to be in that moment, and to try and find Christ through that. So that's what I really love about it. You know, you don't find a lot of artists that are openly admitted to that, and they want to show that process and that struggle. So that's what I really love about this song. This song can relate to anyone. And the last thing, what I really love about it, this to bake the cake for me, this like sealed the deal. But when I heard Beam, guys, like when I heard Beam, like, yo, like honestly, I wish I did a live reaction. But man, when I heard Beam, I had an academics type of reaction.
This track is called Sicko Mode, track 3. Oh, wait. Yeah. Wait. Sun is down, freezing cold.
My headphone plugged out. Let's focus. Let's focus. Let's focus. It's track 3.
And the reason for my reaction is mainly because Beam in CHH, I guess, is seen as this taboo artist that's not to be spoken about in CHH. You know, and if you know who he is, I'm gonna make a video about him in the future. But he used to work a bit on the Neverland project with Andy Mineo. He popped out and did a few features, you know, in 2017 with Social Club, and then on the Magic and Bird album with Words Played and Andy Mineo. But Beam is just one of those artists that, like, he's the embodiment of if you know, you know. And he's like your favorite artist. I mean, like a lot of people know about this guy. But I guess he's not really just brought up really like that. But hearing Beam was just one of those things where like I didn't really see it coming just because I didn't really think, I would see Beam on an RG project really, but he's a very talented artist, and his verse on the song fit perfectly as well. I mean, there's this one line that's still stuck in my head, but he was saying, "They say come as you are," which is true. We've heard that. That's like a biblical saying we've heard in church. They say come as you are. But then he follows that up by saying, "They say come as you are, but they still reject me." And that to me, like that line hit different just because it just shows just the uphill fight and struggle to want to be vulnerable and admit your problems, but at the same time the fear of what if people reject me and what if this happens and what if that happens. So that was a great line for sure. All right, now the next song on the album, Already, I mean, RG is not putting his foot off on the gas pedal. Like when it comes to this project, he's still relentlessly throwing more added elements of surprise. Already, I kind of love, I guess I don't know what's the word, but I guess it's like a pop feel to the song and just how it sounds and everything like that. It definitely goes along with like sober in the sense of like listening to it ambiently at night. It's definitely a great feeling listening to it, and especially when he threw in a bit of like reggaeton influence into it. RG's just blending in different sounds, and that's what I love about it. I mean, like I think a while back he talked about how like CHH, I'm sorry, not CHH, but New Hollywood is more than a Christian album. I guess part of what he meant with that was that literally he's blending in different sounds. He is being very, very creative when it comes to this project. But he literally already goes well with following sober, but I love it for sure. And then Love You, I love the song, ironically, but Love You as well, I love that as well. I love the song and just how calm it is and how soothing I guess it is. I guess it reminds me of a song, I guess, of another song that was made a few years ago.
'Cause you're convincing yourself that you're falling in line with fate.
And so, taking this simple beat and just turning into a song and kind of just, I guess, vibing out really with it. It's a great song to vibe out to. So Love You, it's definitely a great song for sure.
Lost inside of my head, looking for a way out. My thoughts are better inside.
All right, now going into 285. Now earlier I'd mentioned that I had a pick for my top 2 songs on the album, and I mean this right here I would say is a cut above the rest and is my #1 spot for the best song on this album. 285, I love everything about it, and in particular Whatuprg brings on Caleb Cruz, which is an artist, I mean, that's not really talked about like that around CHH, I guess, but Caleb Cruz, he's been around for years. He started out working with CHH, and then, he's worked out of CHH, still works with artists around CHH. I mean, Caleb really works with any artist, really, but what I love about Caleb is he specializes in a lot of synthwave beats, or I would call it like dark synthwave beats. And the more you tune into him, the more you realize he really has an ear for this type of sound. And I mean, I listen to him all the time, and he doesn't just produce as well, but he's an artist as well. Caleb's voice, which is pretty smooth and silky, goes really well with this song. And when you're listening to it, it kind of has like a smooth feel, kind of like a lullaby sound. It's very calm, very tame. And with the song talking about wanting to keep your problems to yourself, and just wanting to find a way out of your problems and then praising God throughout the midst of that process. I mean, it's great for sure. So yeah, no, 285, I would say hands down the best song on the album. All right, now moving into Running 2 and Hollywood. Again, they're two separate songs, but I would consider them like one whole song just because Running 2, it basically does the same thing it did like previously earlier on in the album, and basically transitions into another whole song. And so Hollywood itself, which is like, I guess like the actual song, I just love, I guess what I love about it is it's almost like it's literally almost like a praise song, like a worship song in my opinion. And I love Hollywood and just I guess how praise it sounds, that's not really a thing, but I guess how you could listen to it. You could listen to it as like a praise and worship song. You could listen to it just like as a song to just, you know, get you hype or anything like that. I love it. And especially, you know, when we're coming down to near the end of the album and with RG, you know, telling a story and everything like that, it's kind of coming to a good conclusion with just, you know, in the midst of your problems, you're just talking about praising God and everything like that. So Hollywood, I love it for sure. And then Kids Again, I mean, it's really just an interlude to phase out and transition out of the album. And that's pretty much it. Like there's not much else, but it's a great way to end the album off. And then of course, after that, following that, there's Praise, of course. And after that, I mean, the album is pretty much finished. Now, coming to the end of this album, honestly, not only did I enjoy it, but I, you know, finally understand that RG really completed what he sought out to do, and that was make an album, just make music that was more than just CHH, because he said this album was going to be bigger than CHH. And I mean, I loved it, honestly. If there were really any critiques about the album, I mean, the only thing I would say is just, honestly, it could have been longer. I mean, generally as music fans, like, I'm pretty sure like we all want a song or an album to be longer just because of how long we're waiting for that song or that project. But that's really my only critique, because towards the end of it, I mean, I've already listened to Praise before, and I mean, the album is 44 minutes long, but Praise takes up like the last 6 minutes. So when you count that, and then you count like the interludes in between, like with the transitions, it does lead me to think that I wish the album was a little bit longer, like maybe a song, like an extra song or two longer. But honestly, like that's really it. Like I don't even know if that's really a criticism, but I mean, basically, I guess it is. But honestly, I enjoyed this album a lot. I'm taking my time, just trying to cherish every listen to it. And I mean, yeah, this is a great project overall, guys. But this album is like a comeback story for all of us, not, you know, for RG, and just for anyone, you know, going through the, you know, similar situations. And I mean, I love to listen to it, and I mean, hopefully it'll help a lot of people out there, Christian or non-Christian. So it was great music overall. It was a great concept overall, and I mean, it defied all my expectations. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of the review. Let me know what you guys thought about the album, especially like what were your favorite songs from it, or actually what were your top songs, like your top 2 songs? Because I know my top 2 songs were 285 and Sober, but what were your top 2 songs? And yeah, that's about it, guys. Take care. Thanks.